Welcome to Your City on Community 7 Television. I'm Veis and I'm your host. Each month we look at a different aspect of what's going on with the city of Billings. This month we're going to talk to Denise Bohlman. Denise is the city clerk. She's going to talk to us about what that office is. Sometimes you probably don't notice she's out there, but she does a lot for the city of Billings. So Denise, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Schutz, for having me.
All right. We're going to dive deep into what the city clerk does. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about you. Give us your background. Did you grow up here in the area? Did you come to the area? How'd you get to Billings?
Sure, born and raised here, actually. But my professional career took off as a legal secretary, and I've got a legal background, 25 plus years in that, and then I worked as an executive director, victim witness advocate for an agency called SAVES. It was for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault for Central Montana, because there was a short time when I left Billings, and so I was working in that capacity. And yeah, so I'm
So
from
when
here.
you came back, did you come back for the role of city clerk, or did you work somewhere else within the city and then kind of moved up? Tell us about that.
Both. When I returned back to the city, I came as a state worker for the Office of Public Assistance and did Medicaid eligibility for adults and SNAP benefits. And then I saw that there was a position that was open with community development, and I took a position under Brenda Beckett there for a few years, a couple of years, I guess. And then I went to work as the deputy city clerk for a year under Carrie Martin, and kind of got my feeling and said, I really like this job. And after about a year, that was just a part-time position. And after about a year, the city attorney's office had a position open, and I interviewed for that and went into that position for a couple of years before Carrie Martin retired, and then I applied back for the city clerk's office. But years and years ago, I had worked for the city attorney's office and knew that if there was ever an opportunity to get back working with the city of Billings, that's what I wanted to do.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell us about the city clerk's office. What is it? What does it does? What is its role within the city organization?
Well, we are the records keeper of all the official records, and we keep the minutes and the agendas, work with the council members and the mayor, keeping all of that straight. And that is a huge responsibility, a huge role for the city.
And so you have to show up at each and every city council meeting and be there and take minutes, take notes, and that kind of stuff?
We have a clerk that's there, a deputized clerk at every meeting, yes. It may not be me physically, it might be my deputy, and it might be one of the administration people.
And is that for regular city council meetings and work sessions, both of them?
Executive sessions.
Okay.
Yes.
And then how do you work with city administration on? Do you help with the preparation of packets for the city council, for the meetings, agendas, supporting documents, all that kind of stuff? Kind of walk us through what your role is as part of that.
Absolutely. So, yes, the city administrator is the one that approves the agenda packets as they go out, but I am actually, myself and the deputy, we prepare all of the agendas, and we go through all of that with the leadership and city administrator to make sure that the right things are on there, that they're placed in, so we do agenda management, and that takes up a good deal of our time because we have a meeting every week. So you, on some Fridays, you're doing dual packets for those. And so, that's what we do a lot.
So then is that kind of set by city administration? Does the mayor get involved? Does the council get involved at all? Or
No.
it's all city administration?
It's all city administration as to what comes before them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how you relate to all the other departments within the city of Billings. Do you interact much with airport? Do you have much to do with the parking? Talk to us about how that works in your role.
Well, everything that's going to go before the council comes through the city clerk's office. So if there are contracts to be signed or anything like that, all of those come through. And of course, we have purchasing, procurement procedures that they have to follow. So all of that comes before us. If they've had a bid opening for something and that's going to go before the council for approval, then that comes through my office as well.
So when I know some of the larger departments, do they have folks that are kind of dealing with the finance issues, the bid openings and stuff like that? And then do you guys deal with it for some of the smaller departments? I believe Public Works has a person who does a lot of that stuff.
Engineering is one of our big culprits of that. But, we have airport and stuff. Really, all the bid openings are opened at City Hall in the conference room. They're read aloud by myself, and the purchasing agent is before us as well. So for bid openings, folks send all of their ads to us. We are responsible for making sure that our legal ads, legal notices for notices of meetings, public hearings, invitations to bid, requests for proposal or requests for quotes, any of that kind of thing, that all of that is posted. We post it onto the website, and then we're there to open up bid openings
so
and
all
take
that
care
stuff
of all the affidavits.
ultimately has to be funneled through your office.
Yes, sir.
But are there smaller departments too that don't even have staff that deal with this stuff, and that all falls on your shoulders as well?
I don't do the writing. The purchasing agent, I would say, works with the administrative support folks that are in those other smaller departments to get the bid packets ready to go and the ads and things like that. So.
Okay. What are some of the roles that maybe you have as a city clerk that people wouldn't necessarily associate with the office that you have?
Well, I would say that the things that kind of surprise them the most when they call our office is that they actually think they have the clerk and recorder from Yellowstone County Courthouse.
Yes.
Or they'll think that I'm the clerk of municipal court or of district court, so they'll have questions about that. Most of the time when folks call my office, they are confused about who they should actually be talking to, whether it's about parking tickets or anything like that. And I think that what people don't understand about a city clerk is that every city and every town has one, and we all play different roles. Some of them are treasurers in their towns. I mean, they may be the only go-to person. They're the ones that handle billing and all of that. For me, I'm lucky because we have a finance department. So within my department, we have a deputy city clerk, and then I have an executive secretary that works for the mayor and for the city administrator, but she helps with contractor bonds and insurance and those kinds of things. In the finance department, we have an SID tax specialist assigned just for that. We have a bond clerk. So in smaller towns, that person takes on that role for everything. Another thing I think people don't understand is that clerks are actually receive certifications. So they can be certified internationally, or they can be certified just within the state of Montana. And that's usually a 2 to 3 year process to get your education points and things to get your certification. And I think people don't think of that, that there are actually certified, certificates out there for municipal clerks.
Okay. Walk us through what a typical day like in your office, or maybe more like a typical week or something like that. What's kind of going on day to day or week to week in your office?
So I'm responsible for reading through, monitoring, tracking all of the emails that come into the city council as a whole, and posting those onto the website. So I review those for content to make sure that there isn't anything that's disparaging or anything like that. And then those are posted for the public to see. Definitely do the bid openings once a week. Prepare agendas all week long, minutes all week long. When we have ordinances that are passed and things like that, those need to be funneled over to municipal. Muni Code is who we use. They're our codifier to make sure that those get on record and get out to the public. A lot of cleanup, looking at plats, doing plat reviews. There's just so much that we do every day. Deal with the public every day, all day long.
What typically, if someone from the public comes in, what are they asking for your office? If they didn't get the wrong office,
Yes.
what are the things that
Public records.
I came in, I want what is it that I want?
Exactly, public records. We do a lot of public records tracking, and sometimes research is a big part of it as well. So you can spend hours trying to track down old archives for folks.
Is that also include like requests from news organizations to say, hey, I would like all of the records on this, and then how do you get in the weeds of, well, I can't give that to you, or is that your decision, or how does that work if they come and request something that's not obviously a public record? Do they make that request to you, and then is it up to you to decide if it can be released or not released?
That is not my responsibility to make those decisions. I have a legal department that all runs through. So I can certainly start to gather it. Now, if people want building permit information or anything like that, I'm kind of the clearinghouse for public records.
Okay.
They come to me first, and then I disperse those out to the appropriate departments for fulfillment, but I track all of that to make sure that they are getting responded to. If it is something that's specific to a municipal court case, then those go directly to the legal department because their prosecutors will be able to respond to that.
Okay.
If it's discovery
Well,
related.
if you had to guess, what percentage of requests do you get for records that you just have to do some research and give it to folks, versus how many come in and you're like, somebody else needs to decide how to do that?
Probably about 10% of all of them, really. And then it can be historical in value. I mean, it'll be, what ordinance, what's the history of the ordinance about pet rats being kept in the city? And, because people find out that we can't have potbelly pigs and we can't have pet rats in the city. So you go back and you look for the ordinance, and then you go back through the history and find the original ordinances, and then sometimes minutes that were reflective of that decision.
So walk us through your record keeping system. Like, where is it? Is it electronic? Is it kept in a vault? And what is in that record?
All of the above. Right now we have invested in a document imaging solution, and I seriously think we are probably 20 years behind the curve on that, but we're not unlike most municipalities. It's an expensive endeavor, but it's definitely one that I see can pay off in the end. Having records that are readily available quickly can save you hours and hours of research time trying to find things. And in some cases, some have been either destroyed or lost or something to that effect. And certainly having it digitized and in an electronic format will save everybody. And it'll even be set up so that a lot of the records could be found by the public. They can just query it and be able to find what they're looking for without even making a request for it. So it will be great. But I do have fireproof safes for some of the very old ordinances and resolutions and minutes, because those have to be kept permanently. I'm not certain that those would be digitized anytime soon, because they go back to the 1800s. So.
Okay. They go back to when Billings was formed as a city. Do you have records that go back that far?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And they're kept in a fireproof safe. And can anyone come in and access those, or they would have to make a request of you for you to go access that record?
That is true.
Okay.
Yep. The latter is true. I can definitely, get access to them and bring them out if they want. And there are cases where people would like to just view them. They don't necessarily want a copy of them or anything. They just want to view some of the records. So we sit them down in my office and they look through them.
Yeah, I imagine that is one of the differences between the county clerk and recorder and the city clerk. I think a lot of times people do go to the courthouse. Well, they're not in the courthouse anymore, but in their office now, and they are allowed to sit down and do research on that stuff rather than have have Jeff's office do that stuff,
Right.
they can do a lot of that stuff there
Sure.
themselves.
Sure.
So, but as it sits today, even though you have a document imaging thing, folks can't go online and search yet, or that's something
No.
that's coming.
Right. We are still building our trees and everything. I mean, we are very much in the infantile stage of that.
Okay.
But it's coming. It's coming.
What do you do for the records that are new right now? Okay, I know I need to keep minutes from everything that happens in 2020. Are those just created electronically from the very beginning?
They are, but we also have the hard copies that are signed by myself and the mayor, along with the ordinances and resolutions. My feeling is this, and I have ran this by the local government committee that does records retention, and that is, if something is to be kept permanently, I think that it should be kept in a paper form as well as an electronic form. So
Sure.
I do not anticipate that we will ever get rid of our paper records that have to be kept permanently,
All right.
according to law.
So, do you are the vaults available? Do you have enough room to keep records for the next 20 years, or do you move stuff off-site, or how does the actual paper record storage work?
So far, I have not had to remove anything off-site. As far as the fire cabinets, fireproof cabinets, those we would need to invest in some more of those for our ordinance books and things. But right now, we keep them up in our office.
Okay.
It's just like the very, very old ones that we have stored in the fireproof
Okay.
spots.
Let's walk through a little bit more detail on how you interact with City Council. Either you or someone from your office is at every meeting. Do you keep a word-for-word record of what was said there? Do you kind of do the highlights of what was said there? What kind of minutes are you keeping during the course of a City Council meeting?
Sure. Well, we do what we call council action summaries, and we post those the following day to the website. That only keeps track of who was in attendance, who was absent, who was excused, whether minutes from the previous meetings were approved or not. It does not say who made the motion for approval or how those passed. And then it'll go through the consent agenda, and it will say which things were on the approved. If there was somebody who either abstained from the vote or was opposed to the motion for approval, then those will be noted on the council action summary. And so that's just something that we can just quickly get out to the public so they know what occurred the night before.
Yeah.
We also have any council initiatives noted on there, but we don't necessarily put down who it was that spoke during public comment periods or any of that kind of thing. Then when we get to the minutes, we get into it a little bit deeper, but it's still summarized, and we don't do it verbatim. And then we also, because our agenda management software is linked into our website, it provides a spot where we can actually link your recording of our minutes.
Very good.
And so having that partnership with Channel 7 has been very beneficial that way, because we can, as soon as your recording is available for viewing, we're able to create the link and put it onto that. So even if the minutes haven't been prepared yet, people, if they have a question, they can go on there themselves and utilize your programming to listen to testimony or whatever they have a question about.
Is there a standards for electronic records retention, and do you have to have your file server in a fire safe place, or how long do I keep the video of the 2013 council meetings, and are there standards around that, and how do you guys keep those records?
There are. And we have a lot of redundancies that have been created. Our IT department is very good about having multiple servers and backups and off-site backups as well. So anything that's electronic is I'm very confident is in good shape. We have to, all municipalities have a records retention schedule. And those were adopted by the legislature oh gosh, 2016, 15, took effect in May of 2016, I believe. And so we have to follow what that says. So like for recordings, we are required to keep them, I believe it's just 2 years, and then those can be disposed of. But I have no intention of actually doing that. I mean, once they're linked, if your links fall apart or something at that point, the recordings aren't as important as the actual minutes documents themselves, because those are official.
Right.
So by having the audio version of the recordings of those meetings, those are more of a convenience, but they aren't official records.
Sure.
Yeah.
How often do you get requests from the council or the mayor to say, well, this doesn't seem right, you know, I swear 6 months ago we said this, and they come to you to say, you know, what was that? Does that happen very often?
It's never happened. I did have one council member ask me about something that he thought was said, and I explained to him that they're summarized. We don't take it verbatim, but he could certainly listen to it. But once they're approved, and nobody ever questions it.
Okay. And then what kind of search functions are available for that electronic stuff? I mean, can I search by a keyword or a certain council member or something like that, and we'll pull up all the stuff in the minutes? Or is there anything along those lines?
I'm not certain about that. I think it comes out as a PDF version.
Oh, okay.
So it would probably depend on what your Adobe PDF programming was more than anything. I think that if you had an idea as to when something may have occurred, which meeting of which month, I think that you can search it by month.
Sure.
Just kind of depends on the website.
And I think all of the minutes and agendas and stuff like that's all on the website too, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. If I I thought it was about November of last year, I can go and look those up and kind of read through and see what's on there.
Exactly. It's not a perfect system, that's for sure.
Talk to us a little bit about keeping up the municipal code and stuff like that. How do you interact with the attorney's office to do that? And I mean, I'm guessing you're the official record keeper, but they would come back and say, this language isn't exactly right. Talk to us about how that would work.
Actually, the legal department prepares a lot of the agendas. We do, or not the agendas, but the ordinances and resolutions, or the departments themselves. And then their drafts come to us for cleaning up, and if there are any questions, then we run those past. But all of the departments, if they have an ordinance change, for instance, we have one that's coming up for Human Relations Commission. They wanted to adjust, their board wanted to adjust the language in that particular part. And so the HR department took responsibility for drafting the changes and the staff memo that would be in the agenda packet, but she went to the legal department to make sure that her wording and things were right, that things are struck out where we're taking it out, that they're underlined what the new language is. And then once those are passed, the clerk's office forwards those to Municipal Code and keeps track of all of that. And then they become law about 30 days after they have been passed. And then those are uploaded onto our website under City Code.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you ever had a chance to sit down with some of the city clerks from some of the larger cities, Missoula, Great Falls, and just kind of talk about, this is how we do it, is it pretty much the same? Is it kind of different? What does that discussion look like?
Everybody seems to be doing things a little differently. You know, we do what it is. I think it depends on staffing. Yes, to answer your question, I have sat down with clerks from Kalispell, Bozeman, Great Falls, Helena, Missoula, certainly, and I look to those clerks often when I have a question about something, especially in the first couple of years when I was doing this position. I had a lot of questions about records retention and, you know, what do you guys do for your agendas, and who do you use, what software programs do you use? Social media has become really something that a lot of clerks are frustrated with.
Yeah.
And so this last year, in conjunction with our IT department, we were able to get a company called Social Archive. I mean, until that conversation started at the amongst the clerks, and I brought it back with me, I learned through our IT department that we really didn't know how many social accounts we had out there, how many were for the police department and the fire department, the parks department, and library. The library has a few of them. So it gave us a great opportunity to inventory that, who has Facebook, Twitter accounts, whatever. And then we were able to get a company called Social Archive. So I feel much better knowing that is happening, because I learned of the importance through visiting and taking some courses on it, that you know, we could really be at significant liability if we were not able to go back and find posts of something, or maybe something that was deleted, and a timeline for all of that. And so it was an easy fix, but it was just one of those aha moments that we didn't realize that we were exposed.
So that I'm assuming that's a software or internet site, and it archives all the social media for the that's associated with the city of Billings?
It does.
Okay.
It does, yes.
And then is anyone able to go on and search that, or just you, or how does that part of it work?
Yes, I believe it's just the city staff that's able to access that.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
If you could change one thing about how the city clerk's office operates, what would be the one thing you would want to change?
I would like to be able to snap my fingers and have document imaging all done. I would love to have that part of this journey over, because it is pretty painful. It's a very slow process. It's one that you have to think through very clearly. What is the end result that you want? You need to put in your retention record periods and when your purge dates are. You also need to think about, you know, we have grants and donations received by several different departments. Do we want to have those saved departmentally? Do we want to have them saved as grants as a whole? And then how do you tree down from that? A lot of thought process has to go into it at the forefront to see what your end product is going to be.
Now, I do believe Yellowstone County just went through this process, if I'm not mistaken. Were you able to visit with? Oh, they have not done it either. Okay.
I don't know. I'm not privy to that.
I thought they had a pretty big document imaging process that they got through. I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to Jeff about that or not.
No, but I might just have to check into that. My friend Jeff.
You see, you learn something even when you come on here. I thought they did, but now I might be wrong either too. So.
Well, I know that they have everything that is recorded there, I believe, is digitized. So.
Yeah, and I know moving into their new space has really helped them kind of do a lot of the stuff that you talked about, as far as, okay, it freed me up to do some of this stuff in a much more efficient manner. So,
absolutely, absolutely, yes. Yep.
All right. Well, Denise, thanks so much for coming on the show and visiting with us about the clerk's office. Again, it may not be the one that's out front, but it's a very important role, and we really appreciate all the hard work you put in for the city of Billings.
Thank you, Schutz. I appreciate that.
You bet.
My pleasure.